Hi everyone, this is Kylene with Parents for Public Schools, and we are so excited to be joined today by the Student Services team for Pitt County Schools for another question and answer session. So we appreciate any questions that have come in, and we'll try to answer questions to the best of our ability. And of course, if you have questions after this video, feel free to send us a message on Facebook or an email, and we can get you connected to the right people that we're talking with today to answer any future questions. Really quickly, we're going to go around and make sure that those watching this question and answer session know who's on screen with us. So we'll start with Karen Harrington. Can you introduce yourself and tell us what your role is with Pitt County Schools?
Sure. Karen Harrington, Director of Student Services for the district.
And we'll move over to Christy Kennedy.
Hi, my name's Christy Kennedy, and I'm one of the counselors at EDA Cock Middle School.
Great, thanks for being here. All right, how about Miss Bernetta Bradley?
Hello, everyone. My name is Bernetta Bradley, and I'm the school counselor for Pitt County Schools Early College High School.
All right, thank you. Miss Doris Rankin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Doris Rankins. I'm the district's MTSS coordinator.
And I think Ms. Rankins is also going to talk a little bit about social and emotional learning today, if there's any questions about that. Ms. Brittany Taylor.
Hi, I'm Brittany Taylor. I'm the 3rd through 5th grade school counselor at Lake Forest Elementary.
Thanks for being here. And then we have Ms. Kim Anderson.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kim Anderson. I'm a school social worker, and I cover elementary and high school.
Busy. Thank you for being here. And just so that everyone watching knows, we do have that Pitt County Schools sign up as another person on, and the PIO for the schools, Jennifer Johnson, is recording this, and we're so thankful for her technology help as we share this information with you all. So just like previous question and answer sessions, we're going to start with some questions, and different folks on the call here today are going to be able to answer those. So we'll jump right in. The first question, some people have said, my child is doing something on their school schedule called SEL. So what is that, and how is it helping students? And is every school doing that, or just a few schools?
I think I can start with that one. SEL stands for Social Emotional Learning, and it simply means that we are looking beyond the students' academics, but we're using our skills and knowledge and attitudes to try to help each other, adults and students alike, learn how to manage emotions, how to identify what those emotions are. We talk about just self-awareness, talk about developing relationships and how to maintain positive relationships, conflict management, just all the kinds of things that we would need to do to be successful students and citizens.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Rankins. I know I have a middle schooler, a child that just started middle school, and she's been coming home and telling me what they're doing in their SEL class. So she knows that that's my favorite thing to hear at the end of the day. So she's telling me lots of good things from that. So another question that we had, you know, every student is learning remotely in some way, whether it's every other week or it's every day. And so some parents are wondering, what are the different ways that teachers and social workers and other staff, counselors, are creating connections with these students while they're learning virtually? Is there any like one-on-one check-in that's happening, or how are those relationships happening with such a virtual connection right now?
Well, I can speak to what we're doing. I'm doing a lot of one-on-one meetings with virtually with those students. And actually I got off one this morning, and the student had said that it was very helpful for her. Didn't know that she needed it, but that when it happened, it really made a difference to help process, you know, what's going on, not just academically, but checking in what's really going on with her, how she's feeling, what's going on with her family. And I really do believe that students appreciate that connection in light of there's so much disconnection. And also I do offer, if they did want to come in one-on-one face-to-face, that is also offered to students as well. If families needed that, and because sometimes certain students need that, that kind of interaction.
So if a student needed a connection with their counselor, maybe Ms. Bradley, you can just follow up with this. Would their parent or the student just reach out to you over email as the counselor at the school and schedule something, whether it be virtual or in person?
Mm-hmm. They have my email address, they have my phone number. All they have to do is just reach out to me, and I've really made an intention to try to reach out to students, because sometimes, especially with our freshman families, they don't know us as well as other families do. And that initial connection could come from me reaching out to them. But certainly we welcome that, that opportunity for them to contact me or to contact their teacher or to say that they need to see me. We have an open door policy, so we try to be as accessible to families as we can.
Right. And I'll reiterate something I've said in past question and answer sessions. Parents, we've talked a lot about establishing a relationship with your child's teacher right now at the beginning of the year before anything goes wrong. And I would say the same thing about your school counselor and social worker. Go ahead and just reach out and introduce yourself over email. And then if you need them down the road, you've already got that connection. So this year, it's going to be so important to keep those connections as open as possible. So sort of along those same lines, you know, some of our students are doing this half and half learning. They're in school 1 week, they're at home 1 week. And that change can be really hard for a lot of students, as I'm sure you all are well aware. So what supports are specifically being offered right now to manage that switching that's happening so often for students and really help them stay emotionally healthy when things are constantly changing for them?
So something that we're doing, and just to speak on what Doris, mentioned, the daily social emotional lessons in the form of morning meetings is what a lot of our teachers have adopted for their classroom and their virtual classroom. So this can be just as simple as like a check-in to see how they're doing, you know, if they're on Zoom, like thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. So just kind of checking in with them and seeing how they're doing, not only with their academics, but just how they're feeling. And we try to mirror that. Like when they're in the classroom, they do it in the classroom. And then we try to mirror that when they're home online virtually, so that it matches and it's the same and it's consistent. Also, I have an online counseling check-in form that students can use to request to speak to me. You know, we can do a Zoom, we can do one-on-one when they're here, we can do a phone call. So just kind of making sure that they see us and know that we're there and know that we're available. Another thing I do is because there's not as many kids in the building, I have to go and like find the kids. So I just walk around, peep into some rooms, just say, hey, like I'm just stopping by to say, hey, just because I want them to know that I'm available and I'm here, and they can use me as a resource whenever they need to. So just making sure we keep things consistent and just checking in with our kids and our parents.
Thank you so much for that. And again, parents, you know, if you feel like your child isn't getting the social and emotional connections that they need, you may reach out to the counselor and see if they have some suggestions, or even just allow them to be another trusting adult for your child to talk with this year. Can be really helpful. So in a little bit of a different topic, you know, you all in the schools are often the front lines for just recognizing needs that students have. And so sometimes you might notice that a student doesn't have enough food, or maybe they're moving from house to house or place to place, experiencing homelessness. So when basic needs are not being met for students, how are the schools aware of that right now with so many students virtual? And then what are some things that are being done to meet those needs of students in the schools?
I don't mind sharing about that a little bit. I know as far as social work services, they haven't stopped. We're still operating just like we always have, as far as going out and seeing people safely, distanced, and wearing our our masks like we're supposed to. So just like if a person was face to face with us, luckily we're able to still see our students virtually. So they're able to communicate and tell us if they're having issues. Like Brittany said, we have check-ins set up where students can log in, email us, and let us know if they're having certain issues or concerns. There's a school social worker assigned to each school in Pitt County. And so we've been fortunate enough to where we have had the same assignments over time. And so families have really been able to learn who we are and get comfortable with us. They have our direct contact information, and they're more than welcome to contact us directly by phone. And if they don't have our information, they're welcome to call the school to get that information so we can support them in areas of homelessness. We can reach out to our neighbors and our colleagues to help us with those services. There have been some phenomenal food giveaways and distribution opportunities this past year that have been held actually at schools and in different community agencies, and also in different neighborhoods. So there are all sorts of resources that we can offer our families, and we just encourage them to continue to reach out to us. We're definitely here and accessible and able to support them with their basic needs. Because we know those basic needs, if a person is lacking clothing or food, or their lights are flickering, or they don't have internet access, we know that they can't be successful at school. So those are some things that we want to try to address and support our families with when they need it.
And I'd like to just add a little bit to that. I mean, working with the school social workers has been fantastic. If we've had students on campus this year that we haven't been able to make contact with via phone or email or any other way, we've always been able to speak to our social worker and get the address that we have on file, ask her to drive out there. Will you do a check-in? Will you see if they're still at this address? What's going on? If they need to just update their information with us so that we'll have some contact information for them. So it's a wonderful resource to have, because we do try to reach the kids by any means possible. And if we can't, if we don't have a working phone number or something, then our social workers jump right on it and go out to the home and check and see what's going on. So that's been great.
Absolutely.
And we really appreciate, and I just want to say, we really appreciate the partnership we have with our parents. Parents are very honest and forthcoming with their needs and concerns, and we appreciate that. We need to know what your concerns are so that we can advocate in the best interest of your child. So we appreciate that partnership.
To both of you for answering that. And parents, I'll just say things are changing all the time. So if maybe you've never used the services of a school social worker or a school counselor before, maybe this is the first time that you've needed it. So, as Ms. Anderson said, you can certainly call the school and ask for who your school social worker is so you can contact them. You're welcome to contact us here at Parents for Public Schools, and we'll help you figure that out. But just know exactly what these ladies have said. They're so ready to help you. And many, many people are in this changing boat of circumstances changing and maybe needing things for the first time. So we definitely encourage folks to reach out if you have needs. And then also thank you to those who have been able to share things. Parents for Public Schools has done a couple of drives since COVID started to share things like toilet paper with families that might need it. So it's just really taking a lot of teamwork right now, and everybody's got something to give at some point. So thank you, parents, for being involved in that. One question that came through, the schools do so much to help the needs of our students, but obviously you have non-school partnerships. And so there was a question about what non-school resources are available to meet emotional and socioeconomic needs. So are there partners in the community that you're working with to help meet the various needs for students?
I'll take that one. So we have had for several years now partnerships to provide school-based mental health services. And of course, again, our student services teams, our counselors, social workers, psychologists, even our nurses would refer out when needed if a child may need some additional therapy or counseling outside of what can be provided in school. But several years ago, we began a partnership where we provide school-based mental health. And so we work with Pride of North Carolina and Integrated Family Services. And so all 38 schools are covered with a school-based therapist. And so again, referrals usually could come from the parents, the students themselves, teachers, counselors, social workers, identifying that a referral needed to be made. And if maybe the parent's schedule just doesn't work out to get them to therapy during the day because of their schedule, then they could get that therapy actually in school. And we've been able to continue that throughout this pandemic. And as that, the agencies adapted and learned to do telehealth. So I was speaking with one of the providers yesterday, and she was talking about what our teachers and families are going through now. They've already been through since March and figuring out how to suddenly do things online. And so even if your child is virtual, they could still access those services. And so that's a huge partnership that we're actually looking to potentially expand. And we're looking at, what the needs are as we get students in, do we need more therapists within the schools? We're also looking to expand that to our staff right now. And so that maybe our staff would have some time that they could access potentially on Mondays now or in the afternoons, just maybe not necessarily therapy, but just a check-in with a therapist or someone to say how they're doing socially, or emotionally, and just the stress and managing all the new things that are coming with, just everyone trying to learn how we do life differently right now. So we're looking to expand that, where it could also, one of the needs might be right now financially, you may have insurance, but not be able to pay those costs associated with before you meet your deductible. So we're looking at maybe how we could be creative and use some funding that we have just received last Friday from the state to expand all of our student services personnel in the schools.
So much, Ms. Harrington. I know that, again, sort of in the same vein, many families may not have had to access mental health services before, and that can be a scary thing. It can just be a hard thing to get started. But just know that nobody's 100% okay during COVID. And so it's very okay to reach out and say, hey, we've never done this before. How do we get started? So if you're noticing that your child's having any issues that maybe they would benefit from either a school counselor or an outside organization doing some more therapy, those options are there, and your school can help you get connected with that. And they're very committed to making sure their students are healthy in every way. So one question that came through, changing topics a little bit again, there's been a lot of questions about absences. And so can you all talk about how absences are being tracked this year? And, in the past, once you miss 3 days or 6 days or 10 days, you get letters in the mail from your school social worker, things like that. Is that kind of thing still happening? And then some parents are saying, I don't know if my child's checking on virtually or not because I'm at work. So are parents being notified if their child's being marked absent virtually that day?
So this is one of those things that is a growing process. We're actually started looking at that, and we're working with principals next Tuesday to review those definitions about attendance. But the big thing that's different this year from our remote learning that occurred in the spring is that you do have to check in daily. Whether it's face-to-face, being on campus that day, or virtually and doing a check-in. So making sure you log in to Seesaw or Canvas, and then completing the work is an expectation. But as we learn that process, because we do understand that there's limits, if you have a large family and everyone's at home working, internet can get kind of congested. And so we are asking that teachers look at material that's graded throughout the week, and then may go back and change absences as they occur. And then we're trying to figure out how all of that goes with navigating who might actually be still truant, and so there are kids that we are still missing that have not connected at all or connected very rarely. And so again, teachers continue to reach out to families and then refer on to the counselor or the social worker to make some follow-up.
Thank you. I think we can all appreciate that transparency that, like I say in every video, this is our first time going to school in a pandemic. So there are some things that we have to figure out and some learning curves that are happening. So thank you for sharing sort of how that's working right now, Karen. And I'm sure they'll be happy to update us if any changes happen as that learning continues to occur.
Another thing that's important with that, sorry, is that if you have not used PowerSchools and Parent Portal before to monitor your child's progress and grades, that probably is going to be something that you need to do, and there's directions online, and again, you can just call out to the school and try to get connected with that. And, you know, again, because we don't have the normal connections, just making sure that you're emailing and checking in with your teacher if you don't have that access. And then I would suggest you get that so that you can monitor.
There's
Yeah,
also a portion of, I'm sorry, there's
No,
also
go ahead.
a part of Canvas where the teacher can, I mean, the parent can like connect onto their student, so that they can get updates on Canvas too. So not only can they check their grades and stuff on PowerSchool, but they can go in and see that their kid is actually completing their work on Canvas. And the only reason I know that is because the teacher came to me and was like, "Hey, there's a parent on my Canvas. Is that supposed, you know, is that supposed to be there?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's great. That means she, you know, she's checking in on her work." So that's a really good tool too, so that the parent can actually check in and see that their kid is completing their work on Canvas.
And along with that, parents of K2 students can do the same thing on Seesaw. What you're doing is signing on as an observer, and you can see what your student is doing, the actual assignments and what their grades are on Canvas or Seesaw. So you have access to both of those platforms. And if you don't have the little video that tells you how to log in, make sure you contact your child's school. And the principal, the counselor, the media coordinator can help you figure that out. It's very easy.
I'll say, as a parent myself, I know I'm the ED of Parents for Public Schools, so I was a little bit embarrassed to tell my school that I've never used PowerSchool until this year. So I had to figure that out too, but it has been really helpful to have access to PowerSchool. There's a parent app for Canvas that you can put on your phone. We shared on Facebook some instructions about how to link to your child's account through the parent app. But if you needed that, parents, feel free to contact us and we can send you that instruction list. But that's definitely helpful, being able to follow them a little bit. So one question that came through, and Ms. Harrington, maybe you can just give us a general answer to this. You know, if I'm a parent and my child's talking to a friend and I start to have some concerns about that friend, is there a way that I can refer the friend for help? You know, maybe I notice they don't have everything they need, either socially or emotionally. Is there a way that, even though I'm not their parent, I could just ask for help for them?
Sure, you could still reach out to the school, again, just in general, either the administrator or the counselor or social worker, and just share your concerns. Obviously with that, since you're not the parent, we wouldn't be able to provide you a lot of feedback about how we followed up. But, you know, again, we're all trying to learn, and it does take the village. And so if you have a concern, then it would be fine to let us know, and we could, you know, just do some follow-up. Just know that, again, we can't share what the results are or, you know, anything, but we would love to have that happen. We actually had yesterday a situation where I spoke to a counselor where a child reached out about a friend and with some concern, and that counselor helped, you know, share some resources that that person may be able to use in terms of with integrated an online crisis chat, which doesn't have to be a crisis, but just counseling, an informal way to talk to a counselor, you know, somewhat anonymously.
My internet is having some issues over here, so I'm hoping that you all can still hear me. Um, we just have a couple more questions. One is, are there ways for students to be active in clubs or organizations, even if they're going to school virtually? Because that might meet some of those social emotional needs.
Well, I know at ACOC, we haven't really specifically addressed clubs yet, but we've been in the process of recruiting students for like teen court and other programs that happen every year because teen court's running virtually this year. So hopefully we'll be able to get some more things off the ground and get them running virtually for students to participate in.
So some of these activities might be up and coming.
Yeah.
And being worked on. Okay, excellent. Let's see. And I don't know if this is happening, but maybe it's an idea. Are there any like support groups happening for students that are happening virtually? Maybe counselors, running a group, a small group for students who just need either social connections or need the same type of support. Any type of virtual groups happening in the schools?
Well, at our school, we're just getting started. We have an ambassadors group, which are a group of upperclassmen students who want to share their knowledge virtually with our underclassmen. And so we're setting up groups and separating the freshmen into groups so that they can have an informal setting to be able to, number one, meet each other as freshmen, since they really don't know each other, and also to gain some wisdom and some knowledge from our upperclassmen. So we're trying to create those opportunities for students not only to have a one-on-one experience with a counselor, but also to get that camaraderie and that interaction, that social interaction that's so needed. Actually, and I'm doing it this Friday, and last couple of weeks ago, had a group of just informally about 7 students together, and it was a Zoom meeting, but really a Zoom party for them to just get to laugh and it was such a great experience. It was a great time for them to just connect with each other and to have a great time. So we're certainly looking at ways that we can encourage that, because that social interaction is so important for them. So I'm quite sure that that is happening as well.
Yes, in the elementary setting, like as she said, we're just getting started. So we're slower start, but I'm looking forward to having small groups, whether they be in person or virtual. I think I'm actually going to be able to hold my small groups in the classrooms. I might be able to even do it with a whole class, just because there's at max like 12. And at the lowest there's like 4. So I'm excited for that. At this age and at any age, that social interaction is so important to their development and so important to them being able to just be normal, students. They miss that piece. So I think that piece is going to be even more important this year than it's ever been before, just so that they can interact with one another and learn how to do that. Because at this age, they're still learning how to do that, and they're not sure how to communicate and have conversations with each other or adults. So I think that stepping away sometimes from the computer and having that face-to-face interaction with the kids that are here, I think that's going to be really important, as always, but especially this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially as we're talking about school, we often focus so much on academics, and we sometimes tend to forget as parents that our kids are at a developmental stage where social connections are incredibly valuable and really a need, really a basic need, just like food and water and shelter. They need social interaction. Yeah. So let's shift for just a minute to talking a little bit about parents. We have talked so much about what all of you are doing to help our students with social and emotional learning this year. What can we as parents do at home to really help our students be socially and emotionally healthy?
I would say, number one, take care of you. Practice self-care yourself, because we know that parents and families, they're going through an awful lot. And I think the operative word is grace. during this time, and give that to yourself. And then as you connect with your students, sometimes just a check-in, maybe have a ritual where you can have a check-in once, once at the end of the day, what's really going on, not just with academically, but what's really going on, and to have that check-in moment with them, and just to monitor what your student is doing, what they're saying. If they're not saying anything, that could be signs that really, they just need to really have that help and connect with students. But I would really encourage parents, give yourself grace, take care of you.
Thank you. That actually leads us to our last question. As parents are taking care of themselves, once again, we're all living in the midst of COVID, and that's an emotionally hard thing to navigate. So if there are parents who need mental health services, do you all have any recommendations about how they may reach out to either the schools or maybe even a community organization that could connect them with some mental health services?
I would say that Trillium is our provider in our county, and so Trillium, you can go to their website and get referral information there. We don't refer to specific providers, although again, we do have partnerships with Pride and Integrated. And so those would be two that we do use, but there are many, individual therapists within our county. We do have a good network. And so Trillium would probably be the best way to go. And again, just to realize, just like your kids may need to talk to a counselor this year for the first time, that they've never needed that, or you might need help from the school social worker and not needed that before because of job situations or just some economic hardships that you may be going through. Just realize that it is okay to ask for help. A lot of us are noticing signs of more than just typical stress, but maybe anxiety or depression. Things are not the same, and it's situational, but reaching out to somebody could just help relieve some of those symptoms that you're feeling. And just realize that life's not normal for anyone right now, and that's an okay thing.
All right. Well, you ladies have answered so many questions, and you're doing such important work in our schools, and we're so thankful. Parents, again, I encourage you to reach out to your school counselor, your school social worker, get to know them, even if it's just through an email. If you don't need their services right now, just send them an email and say thank you for what they're doing. And you may need their services down the road, and then you'll already have that relationship. You can see these are some fantastic people to build some relationships with, and they're doing such great work. Thank you all very much for everything that you're doing. Parents, if you have additional questions, feel free to send them to us through a PM on our Facebook page or an email, and we're happy to reach out to these ladies and have them answer any additional questions as well. Thank you all for being with us today. Thanks, parents, for joining us.